There it goes. Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Hope you all are doing well. Welcome back again. Let's move this. That's getting in the way a little bit. Um, oh, this looks really bad when the webcam is full screen, but it's fine. We'll roll with it. I'll try to, hopefully when I go to the coding view, it's not too bad. But I changed the pop filter on the microphone, so now the stand is actually way more noticeable. Um, Welcome back. I hope you all had a good week. Hope you all are excited to do some more Android dev. Um, Last week was a ton of fun. We did multiple screen sizes in Jetpack Compose. And today we're going to do a little more Jetpack Compose stuff. But I wanted to revisit one of the apps from the Android Dev Challenge. So, not sure if you were all familiar with it, but a couple months ago, Android had done this like Android Dev Challenge. There was 4 weeks of challenges focused around Jetpack Compose, and they gave away a bunch of prizes and swag and things like that. And one of them was like a speed round where they gave you mock-ups of an application, and then you had to basically rebuild that application as fast as possible and send your solution to Google. Um, and when that happened, shortly after, we did two of the three apps live on stream, but we never did the third one. And I thought it would be really cool to do another one of those, and do it kind of as like a Jetpack Compose code along video. So here's the one we're going to build today. And the way that we typically approach these, so all of these challenges had three screens to them. There's basically the welcome screen, the login screen, the home screen. And how it behaved was kind of different for each one. Um, but what we did was to focus on really just building the UI and getting comfortable with Jetpack Compose. So we're not going to build like an API for these things. We're not going to deal with networking or architecture. We're really just going to do the minimum to build the Jetpack Compose views for each of these screens. Maybe we could talk a little bit about like view state and actually dealing with user inputs. But I think I'll do that at the end. So what we'll try to do is we'll build each screen. We'll have to deal with some inputs so we can navigate from one screen to another. But for example, I might just ignore, typing in an email address or password. Um, like this profile screen on the right, there's not going to be a profile screen, just to clarify, but we'll see how we feel at the end of the stream. If we're not all exhausted and tired of coding, we could try to do some fun side things on top of this. But yeah, that's what we're going to do. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll start to jump into it. Now, I should actually, let me go ahead and post the link to this project, specifically because if you pull that up in GitHub, I think I have it over here actually. There is a PDF file in the root of the project that has like all of the information about what we're going to build. And let's talk through that PDF first before we start writing any code. So with each of the challenges, Google released this PDF that gave you everything you needed to recreate the application. So this first screen is all of the style information. So it gives us a color palette. We can, zoom in on that. So it gives us like a color palette with all of the hex codes. It gives us the fonts that we need, information about like each typography style, all of the image assets, where to find them, icons that are used, and then the flow. So it shows like the flow that like each of these buttons leads to the next screen. But as we go through, we get a light theme and a dark theme version of each screen. And then we get spacing and color information for each one. So we can see like here, we can see like there's 32 dip spacing between the logo and the sign up button. The sign up button is 72 dips high, and then we've got 8 dips between sign up and login button. We can see the button text is white, and in dark theme it's gray 900. We'll talk a little bit more about that after. But the rest of the doc after this is all the same stuff. So we get that for login, we get that for home. This shows us like the full collections on the home screen. So these little circles They're basically going to be like a scrollable row. Um, we'll deal with how to make that. Um, but yeah, that is what we're going to be building. So do check out the GitHub repo that I just posted. Um, you can find this PDF in there. I want to talk through what I did before the stream. So one time when we built this, I decided to do all this styling stuff beforehand because it feels kind of repetitive to watch me put in some typography info and hex colors. But I actually thought it would be good to revisit theming with Jetpack Compose. So we're actually going to do all of that on the stream today. So if you're really familiar with it, the first 5 to 10 minutes might be kind of boring, but I'll try to crack some jokes or something and make it a little bit fun. What I did do before you all got here, so you wouldn't have to see super boring stuff, is inside the drawable folder, I already added all of the image assets. So this includes like the background, the app logo, all of the pictures that show up on the home screen. So you don't have to see me import a bunch of files. But now we have everything we need to get started. And then of course, if you run the app, you're just going to get this default Android UI right now. That's what comes in like the Compose template. So that's the starting point. I always like to do this at the beginning of every stream, make sure we've covered a baseline of what code is already there. So hopefully you are all ready to go. I did put that new command in recently, exclamation point recap. If you get a little lost or you leave and come back and you want to get my attention, do that. Or just ask, but I wanted to make like a simple command to help people out. Cool. So what I'm going to do first, now this is going to be a little tricky because of the nature of trying to type into an IDE. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this color palette, all of these colors that are here on the left side of the screen, and I'm going to put those, whoops, inside our Jetpack Compose code. But I'm only sharing one monitor. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the PDF, put it on my second monitor, and you're not going to be able to see the PDF right now. You're just going to be able to see the editor, but you saw the hex codes, you know where that's coming from, so let's go ahead and add those. So one of the classes that comes out of the box when you create like a new Compose template in Android Studio is this color.kt file. And this is where you define like all of your color palettes. So by default, you have like the purple 200, 500, 700, teal 200. I always forget what this number is supposed to represent, but basically the higher the number, the darker the color. And then you prefix that with like the shade. So let's delete these and let's start typing in the ones that we need from the PDF. So example, the first one is gray 900. And this is going to be color. It requires when you do the hex code to put like the alpha value, which we just put like FF, which is like, whoops, fully opaque. So we basically do FF and then whatever the hex code is. So in this one, it's all threes. We also have Rust 600, which is going to be 886363. We're going to have that taupe 100. So I know this feels kind of repetitive, but I thought it was a good idea to do this occasionally, in case some of you have never set up a app with Jetpack Compose before. You can see how you might like take an existing design system that your designers give you and put that in your Jetpack Compose code. And we'll see how these colors map to the material design system in a second. This is a really good one. So white 850. So this is effectively the color white, but it has an alpha value of like 85%. So it's mostly opaque, but it should be like a little transparent. So we could try to figure out what these first two bits should change to. But rather, instead of doing that, we can just do like a copy method because this is a data class and say alpha is equal to 0.85f. So that's a little bit of cheating, but it's a nice way to deal with like alpha values, but also to be explicit, because no one knows, if I put like 80 here, no one knows what that means, right? But they will know what this means. So I think this is really nice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we can even, so there was just default white. We could even clean it up a little bit and do white.copy. So we're not duplicating some code there. We need, oops, I just saw some comments here. Um, oh, interesting. Can you test if you can change the color by clicking on this? Um, it looks like you can. Um, let's try, I don't know, 6565. Yeah, it looks like it works. Um, works in Java, but not in Kotlin. It works for me. I am on Android Studio Arctic Fox 4, if that matters. I'm pretty sure I'm on 4. I'm not up to date. I think 5 is the latest one. Uh, thanks for that question, though. Hope that helped out, even if it might not have been the answer you were expecting. But I think you were expecting it to fail for me too. Don't change the code, yes. So if we look here, this is 6363. So we're going to click on the color. I'm going to change this, I don't know, 6565. And you can see the highlighted text right here has changed. This is now 6565. So looks like that's working pretty well. That's a cool feature. I actually didn't know that existed. I would just have written it all myself. Um, oh, Gray 800 is interesting. So Gray 800 is basically Gray 900 with an alpha 0.8. Okay, so that is everything for the light theme color palette. Whoops, sorry, I'm struggling to get the PDF to scroll on my other screen. Um, so we also have a Rust 300. E1, AFAF. There's a white 150. Um, which is F. Gray 900, which we already have. Taupe 100, looks like there's white 8. Oh, looks like we have both white 850 and white 800 in this color palette. 0. Okay, so that is all of the hex codes. Sorry, pulling up chat to make sure I can see y'all. Yeah, that is all of the hex codes. Now, the other thing we need to do, I'm gonna slide this back over for a quick second to show you what I mean. In addition to just seeing all these hex codes, each one has a name. So like this is our primary color, oops, our secondary color, background, surface, on primary. So we can reference all of these programmatically, and I'm sure as we build this, we'll have to see a couple examples. But if we set these on the material theme, the colors entity automatically, this will automatically apply like these colors to certain things. For example, any button composable, by default, unless you override it, is going to use your primary color. So if we specify this in our theme, we don't have to worry about overriding it for every button. So I wanted to show you where those names were coming from. And then I'm going to move this over one more time, and then I will show you where that's at. So that is actually settled inside this theme class. So in the theme, you can see we have a dark color palette and a light color palette. This was using the default colors from the beginning, and then it shows you a list of other ones you can update. And then the way that gets used is inside your app theme. There's a parameter here called dark theme, and that's basically referencing the system value. And if this is true, we use the dark color palette, otherwise we use the light color palette. And then we create a material theme where we set those colors. We set our typography, which we'll look at after, and then shapes, which I also think we need to look at least once before we move on. So let's do the color palette. So seeing the names next to what was in the PDF, we can basically say primary is going to be gray 900. Secondary is going to be rust 600, and so on and forth, so forth. Um, so I am just copying over those values. Um, and surface. Cool. That was pretty quick. Now let's do the light color palette. That was the light color palette. Ah, so we're just gonna do a copy and paste, and let's figure out what dark was supposed to be. So in dark, the primary is white. Our secondary is rust 300. Background gray 900. Surface is white 150. Primary is gray 900. And secondary is gray 900. On background, 100. And on surface, white 800. Oops. Okay. So those are the two color palettes. Now the next thing we need to do is the fonts. So I'm not going to pull the PDF back over. You can check the GitHub link if you want to see the details, but let me show you where that is set. So that's in this type.kt class. I really don't like this. I wish the template called it typography.kt, because I think they're just trying to shorten it, but type, when you use like a static language like Kotlin, type can mean a lot of things. So I don't think it's clear that type means typography. Oh, we got a cheer. Thank you so much for the 300 bits. I really appreciate it. So let's do the typography. So one thing we need to do first is we need to get the font families in. So I already have the font resources, but I need to create them because we're using custom fonts. So one way to do that, let me show you where those are at. Those are in the res font folder. So each of these four, we need to create a font family for these. So we can say, Coolum Park Light. This is going to be font family. And I think we do font of r.font.Coolum Park Light. Now let's see if this compiles. Let's see if I did this correctly. Yes. Nice. Okay. So now we just have to do that for everything else. So font family, and then we give the font regular. We also have bold, font family, font, bold, and then we have regular. Oops. Font family, font, regular. Okay. So we typed out all of our fonts. The next thing we need to do is override each of the material styles. So the template gives us one example. Here's what the body text style will look like. It gives us examples of other text styles we can override. What was that sound? We get a follower? We did get a new follower. Thank you. So let's do, I'm basically just going to now copy everything from that PDF again to make it clear. So like we're going to have H1, what was this? H1, which is a text style. We can give it the size, font size, which is 28, the SP. And then we need to give it, we can give it letter spacing, which is 1.15 SP, I think. Oh, and then we need to give it the font family, which is Park Light. And then we do this for everything that we get from the PDF. So our text style is going to be font size is 15 SP for this one. Letter spacing is 1.15 SP. Font family, Cool Park Regular. So one thing that was a text decoration. So I'm just checking now. So one thing that I'm seeing in the PDF is, let me show you. I'll bring it over for a quick second. So on a couple of these, specifically like this H2 and this button and this caption, it says that they should be in caps. Oops, you can't see all of that because of my face. Um, so it makes sense. Anywhere we use H2, we want it to be capitalized. But a problem I've seen before, last time I built these, is that I didn't think there was any parameter to force the text to be uppercase on the text style. And I'm just looking at all of these, and I don't think so, except maybe font style? Um, nope, because this is uppercase. So let's go to the Google real quick, and let's see if we can find an answer to our question. Uppercase, text style, Jetpack Compose. Let's see if someone else has tried to solve this. Um, Text and Compose, let's see. Um, oh, well, this is for text fields. You can set capitalization. This isn't what I want. Um, Displaying text, styling text. Maybe this is relevant. Um, Making the text italic, making it bold. We can do text aligns. So I have a strong feeling that Compose doesn't let you capitalize out of the box because it probably wants that to make what's the word? It probably wants you to do that like at the call site where it matters. Um, there's annotated strings. We're actually going to look at this at some point in our thing, but there's overflow. Okay, so I can't find anything that allows us to force something to be. Um, yeah, okay. So we'll have to use locale uppercase at the call site. That's fine. I really wish there was a way to override it. Um, and I bet one of these parameters probably does it. Actually, let's briefly open up the source code and I'm just going to skim through this documentation to see if there's anything. Okay, so font feature settings is not what we want. We don't want like a geometric transformation. We don't need a decoration. Um, yeah, so I don't actually think there's anything we can do here. Wish that existed, but doesn't look like it. So let's keep adding a couple more. Um, we've also got to do H3. So this will be 14. I feel like letter spacing it defaults to 0, but I'm gonna override it just to be safe. Um, then we have body 1. So this will be 14 as well. Oops. Um, this will be ladder regular. We have button. So this is also 14. Letter spacing is 1:1. And family is going to be ladder bold. And the last one, thanks for bearing with me, is caption. This text style, whoops. Font size is going to be 12.sp. Letter spacing is 1.15 again. And family is clean regular. Okay, so thanks for bearing with me. That is how you add all of your typography styles in Jetpack Compose. Let me know if there are any questions about that. And all that bubbles back up to this theme class again, where this is where it's referencing the typography we just created and setting it on the material theme. If you're not sure how this material theme maps to the actual UI, you'll see that very soon when we start to build the welcome screen. So what else do we need to do? Well, there's shape. This is the only other class. So we get this list of shapes, which are like small, medium, large. These by default are used on certain things like card views, for example. Buttons will have like a given shape. So I'm looking at the PDF and it says our small shape should be 4 dp and medium shape should be 16 in this example. So we're just going to change that. and that should be um, everything we need to do out of the box for uh, theming. So let's put that over here. We'll just talk through that. So what we just did in the first, like, gosh, can't believe that took me like 20 minutes. But in the first like 20 minutes of stream, we basically set up this design system for our application. So that's very exciting. That will give us all the cool branding we want uh, for the later parts of this little code challenge. So now that we have our theme in place, we can begin to build out our flow. And it's going to start with a welcome screen. So I'm just skipping ahead a little bit to right here. So our welcome screen has this background for the colors that will switch based on light and dark mode. That's important to remember. We'll have the app logo, the sign up button, and the login button. So I think something I did last time that I believe people found a little helpful is rather than try to consume all of these um, words, all of these dimensions and font styles and everything up front, I'm going to try to remember the main gist of the screen, which is that background and this column of items. And I'm just going to write the code to throw all that on the screen. It won't look pretty, it won't be aligned right, but it will like have all the components. So we'll understand how to throw everything on the screen, and then we'll give it the alignment that we want. Um, hope that makes sense. So let's start there. So I'm going to make a new file here, and I'm going to call it welcome screen. Really, this is going to be a composable or welcome screen. And those of you who've been here before know I have this live template that I absolutely love called Day Night Preview, which will make a night mode and day mode preview of some content. So here we will do MySoothe theme, and we'll just put our welcome screen inside of it. So right now it will be empty, but as we develop this, we can then see our preview show up here on the right for both a night mode and a day mode version. And actually, maybe if the preview refreshes well, maybe we can do the styling sort of as we go. But we'll see, one step at a time. The first thing I want to do is configure that background for light or dark mode. So one way we do that is we can determine if we're in light or dark theme by referencing that material theme that we made earlier. We can reference colors and do is light. So this Boolean will tell us whether or not we're like in a light or dark theme for our compose app. So we could say the background resource is going to be, if this is light theme, it's going to be r.drawable.ic light login. No, welcome. Otherwise, we're going to do dark welcome. Okay, so we have that. Now let's just throw this. We're gonna need. Let's just start with the image before we worry about the rest of the screen. Let's start with an image, and we can do image. Whoops, is it vector resource? Oh my god. Hold on. Oh, it's because I need to import this before it can give me. I think it's painter resource. That's what I want. I give it the background resource. It needs a content description. Since it's the background, we're just going to give it null. What else do we need to set on this image? Well, we want this image to take up the full screen, right? So we'll give it a modifier, fill max size. And the other thing we want our image to do actually is, this image might not scale right depending on device, but let's say we just want to force it to fit. I think the thing we want there is content scale. We could do content scale dot fill bounds. And so this will basically take the image and ensure that it fills the available space, scaling it to the width or height as necessary. This is everything we need for the background photo. Let's do a build and refresh, and let's make sure that it worked. and we're just gonna have to wait. Yep, okay, look, looks like it worked. This is pretty good. Uh, we have this big gap in the middle. Um, that's fine, I guess that's by design, that's sort of how the image works. But here's what I like to do as I build these compose apps, even in production, not just in these sample things, is once I've written some code that does a certain thing, I don't want this welcome screen function to be really large and really complex. So once we've understood this code for the background image, I'm going to use this command shortcut on Mac is Command Option M, which is like extract function, and I'm going to call this welcome background. And so that will just take all this code, we've already looked at it, we'll put it off into this welcome background method, and we don't need to worry about it again right now. And the goal of something like that is so once we've finished this screen, the welcome screen function should be very readable and easy to understand, as should all of these methods individually. But if I try to put everything in one method, it's hard to understand all the pieces coming together. Um, that's fine, this is a start. So the next thing we need to do is we've got, we'll talk about the background actually. I think we might need to do something to color the background properly. We've got this column of items here, the logo, the sign up button, the login button. So let's build out that column real quick. So a column is any vertical arrangements of items in Jetpack Compose. And like I said before, worrying about spacing. Gotta hydrate for tracks. Oh god, my water was stuck. Cheers. Before I worry about spacing, I just want to throw everything onto the screen. So let's add another image. Painter resource will be ooh, actually, I think the logo is different, so we're going to need to do conditional logic again. And I'm just going to pull it out so that each one of these can be its own individual thing, even though I have like is light down here. We're just going to duplicate it so each column can be its own thing. So app logo res is going to be, if it is light, r.drawable.ic light logo, else r.drawable.ic dark logo. Whoops. Wow, typing. Can't do it today. And so then we can create app logo res, content description. Whoops. We can call this app logo. Or we could even go with the app name MySoothe logo. So we've got our image. Below it, we're going to have a button. And we'll put in some text. This text will be sign up. You know, because I'm not really dealing with like string resources, I'm just gonna type it in all caps myself, but this is one of the things we talked about. We would need to sort this out if we wanted to make them all uppercase. And we'll do another button. And we'll do text, log in. So yeah, those are the three items. Let's rebuild the preview. None of these are going to look good, but let's just make sure they're on the screen and it's starting to work. All right, it is indeed starting to work, but like I said, doesn't look good. Can't even see these. Um, so let's think, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's think about some ways we can start to pull out code. So the buttons look wrong for a couple reasons. Number one, it should fill all of the width. Number two, this button should have a height of 72. I don't want to do this right on the button itself because of the fact that we use this button twice, and there's even one on the login screen. So I'm going to make a new file just for that button that we can reuse. Let's just call it a MySoothe button. So we'll call it MySoothe button. This will need to take in an on-click listener. So what happens when you click the button? And we'll also need some button text. So these two things are going to be consistent no matter what the button is. Um, so then from there, we can put in that base behavior. So we can put button, we can pass in on click, and then give it some text with the button text. The other thing was what we just said, which is that we need to configure the height. So we do modifier the height will be 72 dp. And that should work. And now since I've pulled this into its own file, if I really want to, um, thank you for the compliment, I really appreciate that. If I really want to, we can make a button preview as well. So we could do like MySoothe theme, we could do here we could say on click is nothing, but we could set preview button. Um, are you testing that your chat works? Because we can see it. So we've got a preview for the button. We can let it build and refresh. I don't know how long it'll take, but it's nice. Anytime I put a composable in its own file, I like to do that just so I can see it on the screen. Yep, then we can see like the size of this looks pretty good. I can't zoom in. Size of this looks good. Colors match up with the preview. I think I have this backwards. No, that's intentional. The light colored button was intentional on dark mode with the way the rest of this app works. So now we can go back here and we can replace this with a MySoothe button. On click will be nothing. This will be sign up. Sorry, let me clean up some code here. Make it easier for you all to read. And we're going to copy this and basically do the same thing for the login button. The other thing we wanted is the button should be match parent width. So I say match parent, that's not a thing in Compose. What we want to do in Compose is do fill max width on the button modifier. So let's rebuild our preview and we'll see what that gets us. Oh, thank you. I appreciate the bits. Y'all are great. We're getting close to a first payout on Twitch, and I'm going to take everything and donate it to some tech org. I haven't yet figured out which one, but do let me know if you have recommendations. Um, okay, so our buttons are closer to working. Um, the other problem is actually if we look at the buttons here, these are two different colors, even though they're the same button. So I think the top one is using, I'd have to look at the colors, is using primary, and the bottom one is using the secondary color. So let's come back to colors after we sort out the rest of this column, actually. The image is actually fine. So I'm going to pull that into its own private function here. We're going to call it app logo. Ooh. And actually, I'm going to take this logic for determining which logo to use and put that inside so that instead we can make this take in 0 parameters. And I'm going to move this into its own function and we'll call it like I don't know, button column. So our screen again is a little cleared up because we're going to have to do more here. So one cool thing about the column is we can to make this icon centered, we can actually do that through the horizontal alignment property on a column. And we can say horizontal alignment, oops, dot center, nope, that's not what I want. It's just alignment dot center horizontally. That's what I want. So that will move everything to the center. We also need to worry about spacing. So I can give it some default spacing. I can do like vertical arrangement and then arrangement dot spaced by 8 dips. And this is really nice. This will give us a consistent 8-dip spacing between each item. But one problem for this app that we're trying to recreate is that the spacing between um, the first button and the logo is different. So it's actually 32. So we need to add 24 more. Now, one way to look at this, there's a couple different ways to deal with spacing in a column. So if they're all the same, I highly recommend this vertical arrangement. If they're not, one thing you can do is just use a spacer composable. And the whole point of a spacer is to actually just have a modifier, give it some, you know, height or width, and it will just create that space for you. I prefer this over, well, I would start by using the arrangement. Um, Another way I've seen people do this is to put padding directly on like a button. I don't like that because I don't think that's clear about what that's really trying to do. I prefer to use spacer when I want space between something. But sometimes using padding also works out. So let's rebuild this preview and let's see what this gets. Um, we also need, we do need though some horizontal padding on this column. I think enhance. So, yep, a 16 dip screen padding. So on the column, we can give it a modifier that is padding horizontal equals 16 dip. And so now we'll have that screen padding we want. Um, what's missing from here is we also need this column to be centered on the screen. So a way we can do that is, let's take everything on the screen and put it inside of a box. Um, that is fill max size. So a box is basically just like, think of it kind of like a frame layout if you're used to the existing UI framework. It's really just a collection of things. It draws them in order and on top of each other. But you can align things inside of a box. So actually, one thing I want to do is I want to take this button column. I want to give it a modifier. Now this won't compile because I haven't passed it through yet. Um, but I want to give it a modifier dot align, and then do alignment dot center. So this align modifier is specific, you can see here, to a box scope. That allows me to define some alignment within the box for the content. So here I want to align it to the center. Let's pass that modifier down into our box column, and we'll change this so it starts with our given modifier. And this should actually start to look just like the designs with all the buttons and app logo like centered in the screen. Um, yeah, looks pretty good. What is missing though, as we talked about, is we've got this background that is basically transparent because we're not showing anything behind the images. So the way we fix that is on this box modifier, we can give it a background. Say the color will be material theme dot colors dot background. And so this references the colors that we made in the very beginning. So instead of giving it a specific hex code or worrying about light and dark mode, we just tell it to reference our material theme, and then that should work. And that will use whatever color we gave it in the material side, in the material theme in the beginning. Beautiful. Look at these previews. So the dark mode one didn't change a ton, but we can see light mode actually looks pretty good. And we can see the app logo. I'm noticing a couple other problems on this screen. We still need to worry about this login, or this login button being a different color. It also looks like our buttons aren't rounded correctly. And I think we can talk about why. Um, so let's do both of those things. Let's go into our MySoothe button. So the first thing is to talk about the shape. So if we look at if I hover over it, I don't, okay. If we click on the button, we can see that it has a shape which defaults to shapes that small. And this is fine, this is what the default is, but for the spec for this application, the button should have a border that is our medium shape, which is like 16-bit rounded corner. So one thing we need to do is on our default button, override that shape. So we reference it by doing material theme.shapes.medium. Um, the next thing we need to do is the background color. Um, so let's pass that in. Let's get a background color. Um, and we can actually give this a default, which will be material theme.colors.primary. But now we've given the color the ability to change that background color. And we override that on a button through the colors property. So I think we do button defaults dot button colors. Yep. Oh god. And background color will be background color. So this will continue to take all the button defaults, but it allows us to override specifically that background color. Let me know if that makes sense. But then what we can take from there is in our welcome screen, where we do this login button, we could say background color will be material theme dot colors dot secondary. And let's build and refresh. And I think with this, we will have built the welcome screen. So we're definitely cruising. I feel like I'm going a little fast. I feel like chat's not super chatty tonight. Uh, so that's why we're going fast. Look at this. This is beautiful. Um, both of these look good. Take a quick look at this. I'm going to go back over to the dock. And it looks like we did pretty good. These screenshots match up with the IDE preview pretty well. Let's go ahead and run it on a device just to see it for ourselves really quick. Um, oh god. Oh, it's not gonna work. Well, it's not gonna do what we wanted right away because I never even changed the activity file. So let's go into main activity. Um, and let's just throw in welcome screen. Oof. That does not sound fun to be working at 2 a.m., but I appreciate you being here to hang out while you do. So now let's run this. One thing I think I'll actually want to change, I'll have to Google how we do this. But in all of the screenshots for this, they have like a transparent status bar. But we don't have one of those. And I know there's a way to do it in like the activity theme. Yeah. So let's do that real quick, just so we can have that too. This looks great. I just want to get rid of that top bar. So the way we do that is inside the XML theme. No, actually, I don't think this is it. Hold on. Where do I do this? It's been a while. Android manifest. We've got this main activity theme here. Um, I think here, I just copied this from another Google window. We want to set this window translucent status to true. Yep, we found it right as I was typing it in. So let's run this. And I think this is actually something we want to keep in mind for future screens because we may need to consider that spacing from the top. But um, gorgeous. Look at this. Um, I think it looks pretty good. So that's a win. Let's say implemented welcome screen. So I think another thing I'm going to do, we did this before, is I built each screen individually, and then at the end of the screen was when we hooked up navigation. But let me know if any of you feel strongly otherwise and you want to see some composed navigation stuff right away. Um, you have a minute to let me know. I'm actually going to dive into the login screen because, I mean, there's no point in navigation if I don't have a login screen. So let's get started. Let's do a similar thing. Um, let's build the screen, build the column, set everything up, um, and then we'll worry about spacing and styling, etc. Okay, so new file, login screen. Um, Before I get too far ahead of myself, I do notice these text fields are duplicated, and I don't think we need to do a ton differently, but I'm still going to make a base class for this to help us eliminate some code. So let's create like a MySoothe text field. And really the only thing, so like I said, we're not going to worry about, let's say we're not worrying about inputs or updating text field state yet. Like I said, if we have time at the end of the stream, we can look at that. The only thing I'm going to consume here is a label text. But in the future, if I wanted this to be, you know, support everything, I would need uh, like the value and then the on value changed. But I'm going to leave those as defaults for now. Why are you yelling at me? On value change. And so label, we give it the text, for label text. Um, and that should be all we need for our default implementation of a text field. We did a whole stream a while back on exploring text fields in Jetpack Compose. That one unfortunately didn't make it to YouTube. Maybe I'll revisit that one day because I think working with text fields in Compose is a big pain. But yeah, now we can build our login screen. So this should actually be a composable. And I'm going to add a preview for this as well. Login screen. Okay. So similar thing, right? We've got a background that changes based on light or dark. So let's start with that box. So we want this to fill max size. And oops, it's got a background. The color is going to be material theme dot colors dot background. I'm gonna have to import some stuff real quick. So that's the base. We need like the actual login background. So let's do a very similar thing. Check if we're in light theme. If I could type. Um, so if it's light, it's going to be, I see login, I see light login, else, see dark login. And then we're basically going to put an image. Content description for this one will be null. Import everything. And that's the background. We're going to put that into its own composable. Now, this is all stuff we just looked at, so sorry I went a little fast, but let me know if you have any questions. Like I said, I will always stop and repeat any code. I usually go over things like 3 or 4 times before I commit anything anyways. That's our login background. We're going to have to do another column of information. So let's do a column again. One thing is this will have padding on as well. 16-bit padding. Peel Shark, thank you for lurking. Oh, and I have to check my text real quick. Please give me a second to finish typing. I will do that. Sorry, hold on, give me one moment. Have to deal with some apartment duties. So that column, we're also going to align this centered just like we did before. Um, okay. Um, Sorry about all that. I'm trying to talk through this, but I should just pause. Um, okay. Um, what were we doing? We were building this column, and so we need to add like our login header, um, email address, password, login button, and then this label text. I actually appreciate that she reached out through here rather than just storming in. But it's fine. She totally could have stormed in if she needed to. I'm gonna hope that that is resolved, and so I'm gonna switch my phone back to the Twitch dashboard, and she can interrupt chat again if she needs me. Okay, sorry about that brief interruption. Thank you all for hanging out. Let's go ahead and build up this column. So the first thing we're gonna do is add this. Um, Actually, let's think about what we just did for aligning this column. So this login header at the top, um, its spacing is like, it has spacing from the top of 200 dips. So maybe I don't really need to center. It sounds like the um, column isn't really centered. We're specifying how far it is from the top. So I'm going to get rid of that line. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, let's add that header. So the text will be login, right? Um, Text style, or whoops, let's import this first. The text just style, will be material theme.typography.h1. Um, the color, good question. Do we need, um, well, there's two ways we could put, let's see what color we get out of the box here, actually. The other thing is we need that uh, vertical padding. So here it's actually padding from baseline is what that 200 dip was. Let me show you what that means. So we can see here, the padding isn't above the text, the padding is from the baseline. So that's why we use this modifier, padding from baseline. Let's rebuild this preview and let's see what this gets us before I worry about the text color, because I actually think there's an interesting way we can handle text color with this piece. Also, don't mind, I'm gonna eat a strawberry real quick. All right, this looks not at all like it's supposed to look like. Um, so what did we do wrong? Well, one thing we did wrong is we didn't make the image as big as possible. So let's do that real quick. We want this to be fill max size, and we want the content scale to be the fill bounds like we did before. Um, we also want the column to be centered, right? So we want horizontal alignment, center horizontally. So that should fix a portion of this. Um, let's talk about this text color, and I'm making the text color sound way more dramatic than it needs to be. Um, we also should probably make this as big as possible in order to really center everything. Um, but when it comes to text colors in Compose, there's actually like two ways we can do this. So one of them being right here on the text composable, we can set a color. Or actually back in our typography file from the very beginning. So we looked at all these um, text styles for heading, etc. And we looked at how there was no way to make them all caps, but there actually is a color property on these. Um, so here we set the color to either taupe 800 or taupe 100. Let's look at our colors file and see what those map to again. Whoops, I want theme. Um, it's on background. Interesting. So why didn't that? So, okay, so here's something interesting. We're gonna do a little debugging session here. So this on background color um, is supposed to work the way it sounds. Anytime something is like, like the background for that composable is on your background color, um, then any like text views inside of it should be using that on background color. Um, but if we look at our login screen, um, that's not working the way we expected because on the night mode, this text color um, should be lighter. It should be like this, and it's not. So let's see, we could override it ourselves, right? Like I could solve all this problem by doing material theme dot typography or whoops dot colors background myself, but it's my understanding that the composed system should be doing this. Oh, you couldn't see what I was talking about because my face is here. Um, I was talking about uh, previously, so now you see this login right here is white. Previously, that whole time, it was not white. It was both of these were using like some default black color. Let me remove this line that I just made to show you. Um, I keep forgetting that my face is here. I really need to play around more with this scene. So yeah, it was my understanding that this should use the background color automatically, but it didn't. And so I'm kind of curious why, and I'm curious if we can figure that out. Because our text is inside this box, right? And the box has a background of material theme that colors that background. So let's bear with me for like 2 minutes. I'm gonna try to dig into some source code. And I know this can be confusing for streams, but sometimes it can be fun. Um, and help understand that system that I was just referencing and how that works. So if we look at the text composable, we can see here the text color is color.unspecified. So keep that in mind as we dig deeper down this rabbit hole. And interesting. So this is what I was thinking of. So text color says color.take or else. And then it takes so take or else is checking if the color is specified, return it. Otherwise, do whatever was passed in. So knowing that, let's revisit this code. So we check to see if the user supplied a color. If they did not, we check to see if there's a color on our text style. If it's still not supplied, we look at this local content color.current, and then we copy it with some alpha. So this local content color is supposed to change anytime like the background color changes. I feel like I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole here. And I'm actually wondering if it has to do with the fact that the column um, doesn't have a background color. Um, like I wonder if I don't know. Because I'm wondering if what would happen. Let's find out. I'm just curious. Like if I make the column also use our background color, will it give me the behavior I want? So I'm wondering if I changed that column background color like we just did to use background, if these text colors will be what I expect. The answer is no. Um, so I'm going to stop going down this rabbit hole because I think I'm confusing myself. And we're just going to set the text color ourselves. Um, but I really thought that this should work out of the box. No pun intended. Um, but maybe there's something there. Oh, I have another hunch. Um, okay. Well, that does work. Like I said, that does work. I have another hunch. Um, that hunch being, let's comment this out for 1 second, is that I don't know if using a box actually changes anything about like our current content color. But you know what does? A surface. So a surface actually has a color modifier on it. So I can give the surface color, which will be material theme that colors that background. And now because this text is on a surface, it will consider the surface's color for what the text color should be. So let's do a build and refresh. Um, and yep, so it's hard to see. But now by using a surface, we're getting correct text colors here. Now that I've said all that, I wonder if we have an issue with text colors on the login screen that I didn't notice it. But we'll revisit that. Let's keep going with, or on the welcome screen. But let's keep going with the login screen here. So we've made that. I'm going to put that in its own thing. We're going to call it login header. And next we're going to want to put 32 dip spacing and then add our email address text field. So let's do that real quick. Spacer height is 32. Yeah. Importing is always a pain. And now we can do text field, label text with the email address. Let's just do a couple of these real quick. So then 8 dips and then password. Oops. I see text field, password, and then actually we've got another 8 dips before the button, which is login. Sorry, let me finish this code. So I went a little fast there. Let's revisit this column. One thing I really like about, like I said, pulling individual pieces out into their own method is I love how this reads. Like it looks like a lot of code, but let's just go through really fast. Login header, spacing. Email address text field, some spacing. Password text field, some spacing. Login button. Very quick to read these, in my opinion. If you don't feel the same way, don't feel slighted by that. That's probably not the best way for me to talk about things. You know, it's because I've been using Compose for a while. This still might be overwhelming if you haven't seen it before, but hopefully you will pick up on it fairly quickly. So let's build and refresh this preview. Let's try this out. Okay, so one thing to note is that our text fields are not match parent with like our button is. So we'll update that. But then we've also got to give that label text underneath. I'm gonna go here real quick on our text field, and we're just gonna do this. And we need this. Don't have an account, sign up. Let's build that. And let's talk about that text in a second. But no, just sign up. Um, and we need, this has a padding from baseline of 32. So let's do that real quick. Okay, I'm gonna put this into its own function real quick because we're gonna have to talk about this more. Um, what I'm gonna do is for this one, I'm actually gonna go into main activity, change this to login screen, and let's run this and check on this on the phone. And then also gonna run this. I'm sorry, but I'm going to take 30 seconds away from the stream. Um, I've been drinking a lot of water. I need a restroom break. I'll just be honest. So I'm gonna finish this screen and then I'm gonna walk away for like 30 seconds. Um, cool. This works. Login screen looks good. Um, let's talk about this sign up text real quick. I think I can do that. You know what? Why am I gonna force myself? I will offer bearing with me for a brief moment. Um, I can focus better now. So let's go ahead and wrap up this login screen. So this looks pretty close to what was in the spec. What's missing here is on this don't have an account sign up label. If we look at the spec, there's why did you highlight? Well, there's an underline here. Um, enhance. So we want to put an underline on a portion of text. So I think last time I built one of these dev challenge apps, I had no idea how to do this, so we just didn't. But now I do. So let's talk through it together. Um, there's actually there was a hint at this in the documentation that I had open um, earlier in the screen. So there's this thing here, multiple styles in text. To set different styles, you have to use an annotated string, a string that could be annotated with styles of arbitrary annotations. So it contains a text value, a list of span style ranges, um, list of paragraph style range that specify like text alignment direction. Um, where do I get an example? Um, interesting. So I didn't know about this type-safe builder, but this is pretty cool. So we can do build annotated string, and then we could say with style append some text. So actually, let's try to do that. Um, so let's try to do that. I've never seen text like this before. This was not how I do it in the capsule app, and maybe I'll learn a better way to do something. So right here, let's do label text. We could say build annotated string. So the first portion actually doesn't have any styling, so we could just say append don't have an account. Um, and then we can do with style, um, span style. Can we do text? Oops. Text decoration. We text decoration dot underline, and then we can say append sign up. Oops. So hopefully you can see all that. So this actually becomes a lot cleaner than what I was about to show you. We build an annotated string. We append the initial text, don't have an account. Um, and then we style the next part with an underline and append some text that says sign up. So let's put that on here and let's run this and let's see what this looks like in our application. Looks great. So we're not doing any click handling on this. There is a way to do that. The composable is basically called clickable text, and then it gives you like the position of the text that was clicked on, and then from there you can trigger some action. Um, but oh, okay, we're gonna have to, oh God, can I not view moderator settings in OBS? We're just gonna delete that. Alright, sorry about all of that. Um, gotta love a good spam every once in a while. Um, okay, that's our underline. What I don't like is that the button is so rounded while the text boxes are not. Um, that's good feedback. Um, I think we're matching the spec though on this. Actually, I'm not so sure I am. These look a little more rounded than they do. Oh no, I guess mine looks right. Um, yeah, that's some good feedback, but I'm not really thinking about it that way. I'm just kind of matching the spec, but that's a good point. At least I think I am. Let's check. Let's look at our text field. What does that use shape wise? Yeah, it uses shapes dot small, um, but it only rounds the top. So this is matching the spec, but that's a really good point. Um, if we wanted to round it out more, just to show you, I guess what we could do is yeah, I think that there's something to be said there, like this line underneath and this super round button, that it becomes super obvious, like that it's kind of sharp. Um, we could play with it. I want to try. I want to change to 8 and just see what this would look like, just for fun. Um, but I don't know if I'm going to make this significantly worse or not. Let's find out. Oh, that's not significantly worse. I think it looks a little better actually. Um, cool. So that's the login screen. Let's go ahead and commit that code. Um, so, all right, we're 2/3 of the way through the stream. Thank you all for hanging with me. Now we get to the fun stuff. Because I say 2/3, but this home screen is going to be not um, trivial. So let's hmm, um, let's just take it one step at a time. Um, let's yeah, one step at a time. So let's build out this screen with the search um, text field at the top. Let's start there. So we'll make a new one, home screen. Um, and actually, yeah, let's do the preview. Okay, so let's start with the usual. Let's make a surface now that we know better this time. Um, and color will be colors background. Um, in here, we're going to put when 1/3 is 70% of the work. That's close enough. No, I guess that would be like 2/3 in a normal scenario. I can't math. All right, let's add a column. Ooh, looks like we have some new people too. Welcome all the new people. We're just getting to the fun stuff. So we've got a column, and let's look at the spacing. So it looks like we've got 56 dip spacing at the very beginning, and then we've got our search text field. It also has this search icon, which we'll go over how to make that in a second. Let's do just the text field. So we'll do spacer, um, give it a height of 56. Hate that I type faster than autocomplete sometimes because it makes importing really annoying. Um, and then we're going to add a text field, and the label text will be search. Let's run this. Oops, let's update our main activity too, so we can see this. I want to run it on the physical device. Um, let's see how that looks. Um, okay. Feel like this should be higher than 56 because of this little curved, like massive status bar in this app. Um, so maybe we'll bump that up a little bit more. Um, but the other thing I just noticed is that we need to set our horizontal padding like we did before. So let's do that here. Um, modifier dot padding horizontal 16. Um, and let's, instead of 56, 72. Is that 56 plus 16? I think it is. And let's see how this looks. Um, the search icon part is actually going to be really cool because that's built into the text field. I'll show y'all what that looks like in a second. Nice. Okay, so that's a little better, a little more spacing. I think it's fine. We can run with it. Um, let us go into our text field, and we want to we want to consume an icon, which I think is um, could you specify an automatic padding from top so that the search box is right under the status bar? I think if you're using like a scaffold, the answer to that is yes. Which I think we might do when I deal with navigation. Um, let me try. Let me finish this icon thing, and then let's go back to that. Great suggestion. Um, so I want to look. So we have this icons. Even icon, I think image vector is the type. So let's have our text field consume leading icon. And it'll be an image vector and we'll default to null because most of our text fields don't have an icon. But if it does have one, we should add it. So we can say leading icon. We can say if leading icon is not equal to null, then we want to put an icon with that leading icon, content description. Let's just leave this as null for now. But the icon composable, I actually don't know semantically what's the difference between an icon composable and an image composable. If any of you know, let me know. Maybe there's probably some like niche use case and like maybe icon has fewer capabilities, but I feel like they're very similar. Um, but on our text field, like the composed text field, there's a leading icon, which is like a composable function, where you would give it an icon composable for something to show up at the start. So here, we're only going to do that if it's supplied at the call site. And so we're going to go into that call site inside home screen. And right here, where we do search, we're going to give it leading icon will be icons.default.search. And let's run this and let's see what that looks like. Gorgeous. So now we have a search icon at the beginning. Let me commit this code while I'm thinking about it. And let's go on a brief detour to look at that padding we talked about. So the reason I brought up a scaffold um, is because let's go into like main activity. So something you'll see sometimes is the scaffold composable. Um, which if we look at like the parameters, oh, there's a lot here. Um, but a scaffold is like the base um, stub for any material design application. So inside the scaffold, there's like a parameter for top bar. There's a parameter for bottom bar. And what happens is, based on all that information, you will get some padding values. And that is like the padding that accounts for that top bar and bottom bar. And so you can then supply that padding onto like your default screens so they don't draw behind that padding. So like one way we could test that is we could basically do like a box, um, and we could say like modifier that padding, it's, and then do like home screen. But the thing is, I'm not sure. So if I had like a top bar, then what this code would do is it would put like the home screen, make sure it's below the top bar. Um, but I don't know if the scaffold knows anything about like the status bar. So I'm actually not sure if I will get any different behavior from what I just wrote. Um, we will have to find out. If I didn't, then I'm gonna circle back to this later. But if I did, that's okay. I did not. Um, okay. So yeah, there's probably something we could do with the insets API to make sure that this is consistent based on the different type of status bar. But I don't know the answer to that. So I'm gonna go back on this for now. Um, good suggestion though, and let me know on Twitter or something if you look into it and you find the answer. I'll do the same. Um, I don't know off the top of my head. But okay, so we've got home screen surface, we've got a column. We start with this search text field. The next thing we need to do is add this favorite collections. Um, so one thing I'm thinking of is we have this all over the app, right? We have like this collection of like an image and some text. Let's briefly do like the boilerplate code to make those collections. So let's create a new class here. Let's call it collection. I don't know, because that's what's in the spec. Um, and we'll give it a name and image res. And I'm going to, let's just make some default here, favorite collections. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this doc. I've got all the collection information here. I'm going to pull that over to my other monitor, and I'm just going to stub out all this code real quick. So this will be like collection, short mantras. We've got nature meditations. We've got stress and anxiety. Yes, we do. Always have stress and anxiety. We've got, oops, self massage. We've got overwhelmed. Man, these names of these collections are just coming for me. Um, just reading me like a book over here. And then we've got nightly wind down, also known as Rocket League. Cool. All right. There, I told you I could crack a couple jokes while I did the boilerplate code. Um, so now that we've got this favorite collections, let's build out this. Whoops, let's bring this back. Let's build out this row here. So there's a couple steps to this part actually. One of them being we need to make this card view. And so let's start with the card view. we'll create a composable here, call it favorite collection card. And now this is where like the preview functions come in handy, um, because it's really nice to like have a preview for these individual components as I build them, without having to like add the component into like another screen just for testing. Um, we do need this to get a collection. So let's give it a preview collection. Will just be favorite collection stuff first. Okay, that's the stub for a preview for the composable. Let's build out this card. So we start with a card. Um, we then inside can have a row. Um, the first thing is an image. Uh, Painter resource will be the collection.image res. The description, whoops. We'll ignore the content description for now. I do like that even if you put null for test cases like this, I do like that Compose makes you supply a content description. So before it used to just be like a lit warning and like an XML image. But here it's like required. You have to put a content description anytime you use an image or an icon. And I think that's really good for accessibility, and I'm glad that they're doing that. Okay. Not sure why. There's probably something weird with sizing and how the image is taking up its sizing. So we stubbed out the um, shape of the UI here. Let's go through the sizing. So this whole card is 192 by 56. So let's do that first. Um, Width is 192, height equals 56. Ah. The image, it doesn't tell me. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like, so it's 7 by 7. 7 times 8 is going to be 72. So this image is going to be 72 by 72. So we just do modifier size 72 dips. And then the name, we want that, we'll basically just give that a weight modifier of 1. So it takes up all the remaining space. Um, and then it looks like this has 16 dips in between each item. So let's do that right on the row itself. Arrangement dot spaced by 16 dips. And then we'll also give this a center vertically. Now let's build and refresh and let's see what we get here. Okay, we're getting somewhere. So, okay, so one of the downfalls of when we change the small shape to 8, when we change this, is because I think the small shape is supplied to cards as well. So I'm going to change this back to 4, so that this card isn't super rounded, because they're not super rounded here. The other thing I have to figure out is, oh wait, maybe that wasn't, hold up, why didn't that change it? Maybe it's because the card is not using, what is the card's shape? Oh, the card is medium. So let's override our card um, shape to be small, so it's not super rounded. Um, we also need to figure out why this um, image wasn't. I think it's because I need to give this a content scale. For this one, let's do fit. No, I think crop will work. Um, so it will scale up and crop it to make it fit. Let's see what this looks like. Ah, it looks beautiful. Um, okay. Now I do have, I've been meaning to try to figure out what this is. Um, if you look really closely, you can see there's like a border here at the top. I don't know if you can see it on stream, but I've been noticing it sometimes on cards and I don't understand where it's coming from. Um, but this is our favorite collection card. So we've got the card. The next thing we can do is build out this section, this sort of scrollable list. So let's create a composable for that. And I think this one will be kind of interesting to build. Um, what do we want to call this? We'll call it a favorite collection row. Um, the image is not squared anymore? No, you're right. Wait, why not? Um, oh, I think it's because math. Um, why did I land on 72? Probably because I was counting wrong. Yeah, exactly. I want the image to be 56, which is the same as the height. Um, if I was using a constant, that would have been nicer. Um, okay, great catch. Okay, that looks a little better. Um, all right, let's go to our favorite collection row. This will take in a list of collections. And let's set up our preview. Um, and we'll just reference our favorite collections, hard-coded thing. Um, recap. Hi, Wild Dog. Thanks for coming back. So, cool. First time I've got one of these tonight. I'm not sure if you've joined the stream from the beginning, but what we're doing tonight is we're revisiting one of the apps from the Android Dev Challenge that happened like several months ago when Jetpack Compose was released. Google also released a series of challenges to build an app using Jetpack Compose. One of them was to build like this app called MySoothe, and it basically gave you this PDF that is like a spec file with colors and spacing, etc., for building an app with these three screens. So that's what we've been doing tonight. We've already built the welcome and the login screen. So you joined us right now when we were trying to build the home screen. And specifically, I'm working on this favorite collections section right here. So you just missed where we built the composable for this individual card. But now we're going into building this scrolling row of collections. So that's your really fast recap. Let me know if there's any questions or any code you want to see that we wrote earlier. I'm happy to revisit any of it. Um, if not, thanks for joining us, and now you can see us build this favorite collections row here, which I think will be a fun one to build because um, we looked before at a grid view in Compose. We notice there's this lazy vertical grid, um, which is like a vertical scrolling grid view, um, but there's not a horizontal version. So let's try to build one ourselves. Um, and let's talk about how we can do that. So one way is we can create a lazy row, which is like a way to sort of incremental create things like horizontally. Um, but it's not just one horizontal list like we would with these. We have two items side by side. Um, so what I'm thinking is, what if we did a lazy row where each item was like a column of two collections? Don't know if this makes sense or not. Um, but if it doesn't, let's how do I explain it? So let me make a private composable here to show you what I mean. Uh, let's call this collection pair column. So we could create like this collection pair column that would take like a first collection and a second collection. And what we would do is do a column. Um, we would want to give it a vertical arrangement. Uh, what is the spacing here? Looks like it's 8 dip spacing between each item. And then what we can do here in this column is we can do like a favorite collection card for the first collection, and then do another card for the second collection. So we basically create one of these for every two collections, and then build a row out of that. So this does kind of assume that we will always have an even number of collections. Let's cheat and say we're okay with that. So that approach will prevent a scroll one of them. Um, I don't think so. They will just scroll together, and you won't scroll. They'll scroll together. So like you'll see both of them move at the same time, which I think is fine. I think that's what I'm okay with. We could make like two scrollable rows. I actually never thought of making it that way. Um, that's a good question, but where they all scroll together, tracks, is that what you mean? Or like where they are two individual rows? What do you think, chat? Should we have them scroll together or be two separate rows? Two separate rows is actually a lot easier because we didn't have to do that column approach. Um, okay, we can make it two separate rows. Um, so then let's just do this. So here, I guess we just do a lazy row, um, items of collections, and then we just do favorite collection row. Nope, favorite collection card for that collection. Um, and I wonder, can we do spin that space by? Okay, so let's preview this and let's see what this looks like. This might work out. Um, got it. So this only shows two, but I think that's all that fit in the preview. Um, if we did something like, let's say we made this max width, which we would probably want to do, then we'll see more items in here, or we won't. Um, but that's fine. It's probably only rendering two because it's scrollable. So if we were to run this preview on a device, um, just want to test it. Just want to test the scrolling to make sure it does what we expect it to. Mhm. Looks good. So that row works. So what we need to do is inside our home screen now, let's um, let's just do it in a private function to um, for the section. Favorite collections section. Okay. So what do we got in this section? Well, it's its own column, I guess. Um, the first thing is uh, the title. So let's do text, um, favorite collections. Is it all uppercase? It is. Um, and then modifier, dot padding from baseline. Forward. So that's the section header. Um, we also need, so we're gonna add two favorite collections row. Um, Now, I was originally, when I made the favorite collections list, um, I had, I made it all one list because I intended for it to be like scrolling together. Um, I think the quickest way to solve this problem is just take half of these and just make two lists. Um, we're just gonna, we're just gonna make two lists rather than overcomplicate anything. So let's add that. Let's add that. This probably also impacts my previews real quick. Let me fix those. Um, sorry, just fixing some compilation. Okay, let's revisit the column that we just made. So we have a column. Let's space these things all out. These should be spaced by 8 dips. Um, we've got favorite collections first, and then we've got, or the title first, and then we've got this collections row. Um, if we look at the docs, oh, actually two things to note here. So this header right here should be H2, and on the card, the text should be H3. So let's go through and make sure those are right. So style here will be material theme that typography that H2, and then and then we can add this here. Um, and then over on the card, this can be material theme dot typography dot H3. So let's run this to our home screen, and we should see our favorite collections section. Hmm. See, that mysterious border is more obvious here. I think it's the shape that's causing it. I think the shape is drawing like a border, and I don't understand it. But this looks good. We do see um, a little bit of weird behavior, specifically because you can see the padding. The padding is on the column, so that padding is cutting off the text inside of it, or like the cards inside of it, rather than like here, where it goes to the edge of the screen. I don't know how to fix this. I think what I did before is instead of the padding being on the column, I put the padding on like that individual composable, like I put it on the scrolling row. But I wonder if there's a way to like avoid clipping. Um, like that was the word for it in the old UI framework. You set like clip child to false or something. Um, let's see. I don't know if something like that exists. Let's see if we can find something. Padding, chicken toes. I don't know. Let's see if we can find something about um. Oh, so you can do. They showed this. It's if in this example they put padding on the lazy column itself, which is something we could do, but then that just becomes annoying because then it feels like I have to set this padding on everything else, rather than it being on the column. So you know what? Let's ignore the padding corner case for the time being. Uh, Continue focusing on understanding compose and the functionality, and then maybe we can clean that up at the end. Um, Hope that's a good plan for all of you. Uh, cool. So let's push this code, adding favorite collections section. And the next one we're going to do is this align your body and align your mind section. Um, so the first thing is we need to make this individual row item. Uh, I'm just thinking of a naming convention. I called the other one favorite collection card. I guess we can call this like, I don't know. What are these even supposed to represent? It's not a card either. I don't want to call it like a line row item. Um, we could just call it collection row item. That's what we're gonna call it. Uh, let's make a collection row item. So we'll make this collection row item. Let's set up a preview. We can do just get like a random collection from our test data. Okay. So here we had a column. It started with an image. Collection image res should equals null. And then we've got some text, which is the collection name. And let's go back. So we've got a column with an image and a text. The image, if I recall right, was 88 by 88. We'll check in a second. Hello from Brazil. Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming by. Always nice to meet other developers from Brazil. One of my friends, Mauricio, lives in Brazil. It's also an Android dev. Um, yep, so the image is 88. The text here, um, it actually doesn't tell me, so I don't know if this is like, maybe this is the same as up here. So maybe this is H3, and it's got 24 padding from baseline. So let's do that real quick. Oh, you just started learning it. What do you think of it so far? We are working with Jetpack Compose on this stream, which you may have heard a little bit if you're just starting to learn Kotlin and Android. It's very hard. It's something that I mean, it's hard even when you've been doing it for 5 years like I have. But it's fun and it makes the hard worth it. Um, Thank you for finding the stream, though. I'm glad you found it. Sometimes these streams may feel a little advanced, and sometimes they're geared towards people who have experience with Android. Um, but I'm always happy to meet beginners, new people who are coming to the stream, um, and I'm always happy to talk through anything that you find very confusing. And do follow the stream or follow me on Twitter. And when I do more beginner friendly streams, uh, you'll be sure to see those. And I think that's really great. Um, Great. Thank you for the follow. Um, but yeah, let me know if you do have any questions. I'll try to slow down a little bit what I'm doing now. Um, what we are doing is we're working with Jetpack Compose, which is the new way for writing user interfaces on Android. Um, so it's a little different than the way many of us have been doing Android for years. It might be a little different than what you're starting to learn. You might be learning how to build views in XML, but a lot of that is going to go away, not immediately soon, but down the line and be replaced with Compose, which is all written in Kotlin, which is very nice. Um, I really love working with Kotlin. Uh, Something weird on the design spec, collections do not have a right padding. Yeah, so that's by design, and so what that means is like it's supposed to scroll off screen. And so that when I scroll to the left, it basically draws on top of this little gutter here. And it creates that like full edge to edge screen experience. Um, we can do that. Let me show you how we would do that real quick. So the problem with why it doesn't work in our app, the problem it's being cut off is because of the fact that in our home screen, on the home screen column, we're setting padding right there on the home screen. And so anything within this column is going to get like cut off by that padding. So let's get rid of this. Let's just say we don't put padding on the column at all. Now two things are going to happen, right? The first one being that now our text field is going to be stuck touching the edges of the screen. But so will our collection section. So one way to do that is to pass a modifier to each of those things. So like our text field, it doesn't actually take in a modifier. So let's change that. Let's give it a default value so we don't have to change anywhere else in the code base. Oh, interesting. This is a lit warning saying modifier should be the first optional parameter. Didn't know that that was a thing, but I actually think that's a really interesting convention. Um, so in our home screen, we can give this a modifier that is padding horizontal is 16 dips. And then on our favorite collection section, um, inside well, we need the same padding here on the title. And then let's also add the padding on our lazy row. And we can do that through the content padding. So we can say padding values, horizontal, 16 divs. And so this is key. This content padding on the lazy row will put padding in front of the first item and after the last item, but it won't actually cut it off on the screen. So what I mean by that is we won't see this anymore. It should line up all the way to the edge of the screen and give a more immersive scrolling experience. Oh, I saw that tracks here. Just wanted to finish that thought. So now you can see the cards go all the way to the right edge, and when I scroll this way, they touch the left edge as well. So that's why there's no right padding in the spec, because it's intended for it to be this sort of immersive scrolling experience, where you really get that end-to-end UI stuff. Ah, cheers. I'll drink some water for that. Yeah. So there might be something better, um, because I really wish I could set the padding on the column Because if we look at the spec, all the way down the line, we have this padding. Um, but and if I don't put it on the root column, then it feels like I have to put it on every item individually. And I don't like that. Um, but it is what it is. It's fine for just trying to recreate the spec. And if we really want to, instead of putting this 16 dp everywhere, we could go into like dimensions that we don't have. Let's see, can I do? Well, we could create like a dimension resource and then reference the resource value so that we're reusing it everywhere, and then we're always referencing one thing. So if we change um, that dimension in one spot, it updates all of the screens. But we'll go with a magic number for today. So thanks for that. Uh, Great questions. Let's go back into this collection row item. So this is actually pretty close. This is what we wanted here. Um, let's make this center horizontally, um, because I think it's possible for this typography to be smaller than the image, although it looks like that wasn't the case here. It looks like it lines up perfectly. But one thing we need to do is in the spec, these are circles. So you want this to be circle. Now, chat, I gotta get very serious here for a second. If you have never seen how to make a circle image view in Compose, I'm going to blow your minds. Because if you've ever tried to make a circle view or circle image view in the existing UI framework, it's very difficult. There's kind of like a lot of stuff you have to do. Most of us end up just Googling for circle image view library. Um, Ready for this? On our image, we're going to give it on the modifier, after modifier.size, we're going to do, oh god, background. We're going to override the shape, and we're going to give it a circle shape. Is this wrong? Oh, why do I need to give it a color? So I think it needed me to give it a color. I feel like there's a way to override the shape by itself. Um, but let's build refresh. Question: is the best way to learn an app just to choose an app and try to build it? Um, I think so. And part of the reason for that is because it's more enjoyable to learn something uh like when you're excited about it. So if you pick an app that you're passionate about and you want to learn, you're going to be more willing to fight through some of the confusion in programming um, to try and learn it, you know? You can follow all these code samples, and there's a lot of really good resources online where it's good to learn by following along. But you really learn the most when you dive in and build something that you want to build. Um, and if you need inspiration, there's a lot out there. So actually, let me put the link to this project in the chat real quick. And inside the link to that project is where this file is of all of the spacings and everything. So one thing you could do is try to recreate this just like I'm doing here, and then find some unique feature to add on top of it. But something like this is helpful because all you really get is a design. And this will be what it's like in the real world. You'll get um, some specs from some designer and they'll tell you to build it. So taking something like this and learning how to build scrolling pieces, learning how to deal with text inputs, navigating from one screen to another, you can learn a lot by trying to like implement an application like this. Um, so do check it out. Let me know if you want to find the other Android Dev Challenge apps for other ideas, but this would be a great place to start too. Okay, this didn't work, and I don't know why. So let me figure out what I did wrong because I swore it was that simple. Um, oh, I know. Because it's not the background. I want to clip it. I want modifier.clip, and then I give it a shape to clip to. Okay, so back to what I said earlier about blowing your minds. This one line, one single line, is all it takes to get a circle image view. Um, yes, so that was really exciting when I learned this. Um, Basically, anytime I would see like circle image views, I would like freak out and not want to touch it. But now I like want to use them everywhere because it's just that one line. Okay, so we've got our collection row item. Um, let's go ahead and build out our collection row. Um, it will be very similar to a favorite collection row. So I'm actually going to copy this code and then just repurpose it and rename it. Um, so sorry, I'll read that in 1 second. Why are you? Oh, probably because you're in. So I basically took the favorite collection row, um, and I renamed it to just collection row. And the other thing we need to change about this collection row is instead of favorite collection card, we just do collection row item. So if we look at the preview for this, that should line up. Um, I started building movie app. It uses the movie database API, but most of my code, I don't understand what is happening. No, that's okay. If the app is working, then that's a good start. If you're on Twitter, or really that's the easiest way to reach me. If you're on Twitter, send me a message with your GitHub project, and I'd be happy to look at it sometime and give you some feedback and help you to understand any of the code that you don't really understand. Feel free to reach out to me there. Or if you're not on Twitter, you're obviously on Twitch. You can use the whisper feature on Twitch to send private messages, but I'm just not great about checking there. But you can do that, and I can try to um, respond. So let's see. I'm not sure why this isn't rendering. Um, yeah, great, thanks. Looking forward to it. Um, Not sure why this isn't working, but let's try to add it to the home screen, and then we'll see what we can do. So let's add line your body section. So, and again, this is actually basically the same code as the favorite collection section, except like it's got a different title and it's got different collections inside of it. So let's, once again, copy this code and tweak it slightly. So we're going to change this one to align your body, right? Yep. And that's all the same. And then here we're going to give it a collection row. But the problem is these favorite collections are a little different. So I could just use favorite collections to get the point across, but I'm going to uh, go ahead and make like a new collections list just so that it looks closer to the spec and it looks cool. That's the only reason. Um, one, two, three, four, five, six of these. So we've got inversions, quick yoga, we've got stretching, we've got Bana. I don't even know what half these things are. That one made me think of hilt. Um, and so then we could replace these. Forgot what HIP is, like high intensity something training. Um, so then here, instead of favorite collections, we use align your body collections. And then we add that to our column. Okay, let's run this home screen. Let's see what it looks like. So very similar to the favorite collection section. We just um, the third letter was an I, so it wouldn't be discharge. Oh, it might be like high intensity interval training. Um, oh, okay. So, all right. So it worked, but once again, we're not sending the content scale onto our images, so they're just getting cropped all funky. But it did work. Uh, we do have our list. So let's fix that content scale so that these look good. Um, collection row item, content scale. Let's do crop again. I think that's what we'll want. Um, let's see if crop works. Nice. Oh, it's beautiful. I love it. Um, cool. And then so the aligned in mind section, because it's very similar code, and once again, we can just copy and paste, that should only take us a couple minutes. So let's do that real quick. Let's go to this collection class real quick, and let's do another one. So we've got align your mind collection. So we start off with meditate, and let's just do, oop. So we've got meditate, got with kids, gross, aromatherapy, it's a long word, on the go, always, with pets, pets are the best, and high stress, always high stress. With kids, aromatherapy, on the go, with pets, and high stress. Okay. And then we're going to go back to our home screen. We're basically going to, like I said, we're just going to copy this method because we're basically doing the exact same thing we already did, but this time it's the align your mind section. Update title, update the collections. Now we absolutely could be smart and make this a single function and just have a couple parameters, but after 2.5 hours, I just want to cross the finish line. So we're going to do some copy and pasting, whatever it takes to make this work. Because we're very close to done. The only things we still need to do are add the bottom navigation, and then we also need to hook up navigation from one screen to another, looking at navigation compose. And that should all be pretty quick. So beautiful. Look at all this. Um, everything looks good. We can scroll these sections, um, flying through the home screen. Do let me know if any of you have questions about that part. Um, if not, let's commit this, adding align in my body sections. And then I'm going to do the bottom F bar next, which is this thing. So this should be fun. I forgot how to do this, but I think that the code will help me. So let's create a private function here. We'll call it a bottom app bar. So here we do, cool, so there is a bottom app bar composable. Um, why are you yelling at me? Oh, because that's not the composable. This is what I want. Oh, it's because I called it bottom app bar, and that's what Compose calls it. Let's just call it bottom navigation or something. Um, so that we can actually reference bottom app bar Compose. So, um, yeah. Okay. So then the first thing we need is a bottom navigation item. This gives us let's figure out what we need. So selected, we can start off by saying true. We'll make the first item selected. On click will be nothing. What else are you missing? It needs an icon. So here, for the first item in our bottom navigation, we use, what is that icon called? That's from the very first screen. It's a spa icon. Okay, so let's go back. So we need to give an icon. I don't know. Spa is not in there by default. Um, I'll show you how we can get that in a second. Is it text? Is it label? Label. Okay. This is how we set up our first bottom navigation item. And let's do our second one, which is profile. Well, so this is account circle. And we called it account, I think. We've got home and profile. That's the name of these bottom buttons. We call this one profile. We call this one home. And here selected will be false. So this is what our bottom app bar looks like. We use the bottom app bar composable, and then we use this bottom navigation item composable for each item. And I think that out of the box, it will center everything for us, like split them up evenly. If I'm wrong, we'll find out. The one thing is the spot icon is not inside Compose by default. So how do we get it? Well, if we look at our dependencies, we've got all these composed dependencies, and we've got this material one. And one that's in here is I think there's material icons extended is the name of the other dependency. I hope I did that from memory. But this will give us access to even more material design icons, which hopefully include the spa icon. We will find out. Yep, now we can import spa. And so, but now we've got another thing. So, how do we add this bottom app bar? Well, one way we can do it is actually to reference the scaffold composable that we talked about in the beginning. So let me show you, and that will place things on screen for us automatically following like the material design configuration. So to avoid confusion, I'm going to take everything that's already in our home screen. I'm going to put that in its own private function and call it home screen content. Okay. And now with that, we can build our scaffold. So our scaffold will have inside of it the home screen content, but the scaffold has a parameter called bottom bar. And so here is where we can put our own private bottom navigation. And so this will, by using a scaffold, Compose will place it at the bottom of the screen for us automatically. Let's see if I did all that correctly. Gotta wait on Gradle builds. Really gotta work on my fluff for these live streams. I do have, actually, I probably shouldn't say it because every time I say something and I don't commit to it, I feel bad. But I got a gaming PC recently. Y'all know about that. And I know that there's some interesting stuff you can do with Twitch from a PC that I'm not sure I can do on my MacBook, which is like one streamer I follow, he's able to separate the audio tracks that go to Twitch, where he can play music during the stream and you can hear it like while you're watching the live stream, but in the Twitch recordings and any clips that are made, the music isn't there. So that would be really cool for me to add like music in the background while y'all are hanging out watching on Twitch. But then when I port it over to YouTube, there's no distracting background music. Something I thought about doing, because I thought playing some like chill lo-fi in the background would be really nice. Yeah, I don't know if you can do it on a MacBook. I'd love to find out. But so here is the same shape bug. You can see this like weird padding here. I don't understand it. I know it has to do with the shape. I think the shape is like drawing a border, but pretending you don't see those lines, here is our bottom navigation. Um, Great question. Andrew, should we consider the idea of using the padding values after adding the bottom nav? The answer is yes. The reason it works fine in this example is because like um, well, it's because of this phone screen and that like this doesn't reach to the bottom, so it just works. But you're right. Um, these padding values that come into the scaffold are any padding created after adding the top bar or adding the bottom bar or a floating action. Actually, I don't know if the floating action button does anything. Don't ignore that. Um, but for this example in this phone, I actually didn't need it. But that's a good call out, something we should consider. Um, so, and we could show the way I would do that is like I would put a modifier in here and I would do modifier dot padding for those padding values. And then we could just have this pick in a modifier and then um we would put it on the surface, I think. So we can see if I run this, even using those padding values, nothing should change because of this particular configuration. But if it did reach the bottom, those padding values would help with that. So good call out. Great catch. Um, the only other thing missing is that we need a floating action button. So here we have a floating action button that is in the center. I just realized this bottom bar also, it looks like it should have the same color as the background. So let's see if we can change that real quick. Can't change the color. What do I do here? Background color. Material theme colors dot background. Check OBS. What you can do is put your music on a specific audio track and use it for the stream, but not for recording. So instead of having Twitch upload your videos automatically, you just do streaming and recording yourself and upload the video to YouTube or Twitch. Yeah, that's a good point. But the person I saw, they did it all through Twitch. So like, Twitch has the clip feature where you can record the last 30 seconds of any stream. Um, if you recorded a clip of his stream, um, the audio wasn't there. It was just like the game audio in his microphone. Um, yeah. Oh, and thank you, Sudanshu, for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that you had a good learning experience. We're almost done with this one. And a hydrate. Um, so I'm going to try to speed up through the end here. We need to add a floating action button. We can actually do that right on our scaffold, I think. So we can create a floating action button. So here we'll just do a floating action button. On click will do nothing. But then here we could put an icon. I think it used play as the thing. Um, and description is null. And then we also want to give it a floating action button position. So here we do fab position.center because it's in the center of the screen. And then docked is true. So it's like docked onto the floating action button. Let's run this and let's see what this looks like now. Did they use the Amazon Music Twitch plugin? No, I think they literally did it all through OBS. Um, it's obviously illegal, but I also think it might have been kind of shady because, well, now it's actually a way to get around like DMCA. You can play whatever music you want. Twitch won't come after you because it's not in your VOD. Cool. We got our dock down here at the bottom. We got our floating action button. So we've now completed the home screen spec. Love it. Let me know if you have any questions. The last thing we're going to do is try to do some brief composed navigation to go through these screens, if y'all want to see it. And then I will wrap up after that. So I just need a brief on the dependency. Yeah, we're going to take this composed navigation dependency, and then I'll show you. If you get caught live, they could probably still ban you, but it's a question of whether or not they do that. They will check your VODs automatically. So one time I had actually played like 30 seconds of music from a Marvel movie, and like in the Twitch recording, Twitch had automatically caught that, and so they muted part of my video afterwards. That was fun. But it was worth it. If y'all were there, you know what I'm talking about. It was the Captain America day. So far, only one person has got enough channel points to redeem the Captain America hoodie. But hopefully y'all, yeah. So I played the Captain America music and Twitch yelled at me. Okay, so composed navigation. Also very similar to the other navigation component. Very easy for us to implement. So what do we do with that? Well, first we get a nav controller by doing remember nav controller. We create a nav host with our nav controller and a start destination, which we'll call welcome. And then inside of our nav host, we add those composables. So we add a composable for welcome, which will be the welcome screen. We add a composable for login, which will be the login screen. And then composable for home, which will be the home screen. So these are how we set up like a nav graph using Jetpack Compose. Give it our nav controller and the start destination. Now if we run this, we'll get into our welcome screen. But what we need to do now is how do we navigate away from the welcome screen into everything else? And we do that by basically exposing some click listeners that aren't there now. So I just want to run this, make sure this does launch into our welcome screen. And then we'll go over those click listeners in a second. Cool. So this is a welcome screen, but nothing happens. So what I want to do is on the welcome screen, I'm going to give it a callback for login button clicked. And when this is clicked, we're going to do nav controller.navigate to login. And a similar thing will actually happen from the login screen. We can do login button clicked, nav controller.navigate home. So we get our nav controller, we call navigate, we give it the path we want to go to. Interesting. Great, great call out, Rick. I'll definitely try it out. But I'm also not against an excuse for trying to stream from my PC. Because I love it and I want to make sure I use it plenty. But good to know. I'll see if I can do it on here as well. So now this is what we're going to do for the home screen. Now that we understand that, let's dive into these and actually configure the callback. So login button clicked is going to be a lambda parameter that is just a unit function that does a thing. So we're also going to pass this down into our button column. Login button clicked. And so here, this is our login button. So on click for the login button, we're going to call the lambda that we've been passing down through the screens. And we've got a red line down here because we need to add that to the preview. And we want to do the same thing on the login screen. So take in that login button clicked, call that when this button is clicked, update our preview, and I think that our main activity will compile now, and now we have hooked up navigation. That was very fast, but what I have on screen here is the code that you should understand more than anything else. Create a nav controller, create a nav host with our start destination, use this composable function for each of our routes. Each route has a key, and then when you want to navigate to it, you just call navcontroller.navigate with the key that you want to go to. Am I good at data structures and algorithms? Kind of. Depends on what you're working with, but maybe. So let's try this out. We're on our welcome screen. We click this. It takes us to our login screen. We click this. And now we're through to our home screen. I'm not sure why that was a little slow, but ta-da! We hooked up navigation. So that's it. That is um, that is the MySoothe app. Um, does it help to build Android apps? Honestly, like rarely. Um, it's important to know certain data structures. Like we use lists a lot. I use maps pretty often. Like stacks and queues, I don't really use them a ton. Um, and same thing with like algorithms, not really, because a lot of modern languages will sort stuff for us. So like in Kotlin, for example, if I go to like, I have these collection lists, um, I can do something like this. I can say sorted collections will be align your body collections that sort. I can basically say like sorted by. Let's say I want to sort these by the name. Um, so I don't actually need to know any sorting algorithms. I just call this sorted by method that Kotlin gives me, and that's it. Um, so it's rare that I really need to think about like algorithms and deep into data structures. One thing I struggled with was rendering the navigation icon and the screen title while using the top app bar. Any tip you want to share? Um, so you're talking about having that title change as um, the screen changes? Um, Good question. I actually haven't done that um, yet, but we could try to do that real quick. That'll be the last thing I do. Um, okay, so uh, okay, let's take this code and let's put this into a private method. Um, I don't know, let's call it like app content or something. And actually, you, I believe, are the one who mentioned the padding values earlier. Um, so we're gonna need to think about that here. Okay, so we've got our theme. So let's do a scaffold. And specifically, let's do a box. We can give it padding um, of the padding values. So this way we make sure that after we add the top bar, that our app content oops, we make sure that our app content doesn't get drawn behind the thing. Okay. Um, okay. So we've got that. Um, top bar, we want top app bar. Um, what do I need here? Title. Um, so let's just give it a default title. What I'm doing here is I want to just do a quick run of the setup to create a top app bar. Um, and just make sure that when I run this, it looks good, and then we can talk about updating it. Because it's a good question. I'm not actually um, entirely sure how we want to do that. I think that it would require us to like manage some state locally. Um, well, now I've got an issue because of that translucent status bar. So you know what? Let's get rid of that. Let's go into um, uh, shoot, sorry. Let's go into our style and let's get rid of the translucent status bar just so this looks a little nicer. Um, okay. So we've got our toolbar. But when we click login, when we go to home, for example, actually I think home screen is gonna look weird now. Um, yeah, so home screen should probably scroll because this one got cut off. We'll ignore that. Oh, it's also got this is all way wrong. Um, but the title never updates. So let's ignore the home screen padding and let's talk about that. So one way to do it is so let's see. Well, one way to do it is we could keep like a mutable state here. So we could say title is like remember mutable state of MySoothe. So we can have this title, right? This is like a mutable state, and anytime this mutable state changes, Compose is gonna re-render anything that references the state. So here we could pass in the title into the toolbar, and that's the first step. Is so now um, we're referencing like the title that's passed in to this function. But the next thing we need to do is we need a way to update this um, this state. And one way we can do this is like let's say we pass in a function into our um, app content where we do something like let's call it title changed, right? Just to be clear. So this would be a lambda that would have a new title, and then we just say title.value is equal to new title. So this is what the signature would look like. How do we do that? Well, let's go into app content and let's add that lambda. So title changed will be a function that takes in a string and it has no return type. So we can say, when I actually wonder if we could put it right inside the top of this composable. So here we could say like title change dot invoke MySoothe. So when this composable is created, we call title changed. When this composable happens, we do title changed dot invoke login. And then um, on this one, we do title change dot invoke home. So this is maybe not the most robust way, because really what I would do is instead of managing the state here, is I would have like a broader, like a view state data class that encapsulates everything we need to know. But this just goes to show how we can keep track of this state. Um, Read the state when we create a toolbar, and then anytime we update that state, know that things will be re-rendered, and so it should work out. I'm just gonna change this real quick back to like, I'm trying to find that search bar. I want to fix padding. Oh yeah, here we do a spacer. Um, so let's see if this does it for us, if this title change does it for us. Okay, so that's the default. Yep. So we click login. When the new screen was created, it changed the title. I'm really not sure why home takes forever to load. And if I go back, it looks like it's updating there as well. Oh, thank you for the cheer. Um, so I'll commit that so you can find the code on GitHub later. Changing title while navigating. So, and I think the other question you had was like a back button. Now, with the back button, I kind of hoped that with composed navigation, there would be an out-of-the-box solution to this. Um, and maybe there is, and I don't know it yet. Uh, but I can show you what we would need to do, and it would basically be something very similar. So we would keep like a show back button, um, which is like a mutable state of, it would be false. And then we would like pass this into our toolbar. And then we would do a similar thing. Like when the destination changes, we would trigger something that updates the back button. And I'm not going to do it because actually this gets into kind of really messy state management that I wouldn't do in a production app. But I hope that I've given you inspiration to get started. If that's not true, the classic, like reach out to me on Twitter. I'm happy to work with you on like a more realistic production example. Um, but hopefully this shows you how you can take local state to configure your scaffold, and you would basically just need to take this concept and apply that over onto like the back button. Awesome. Well, this was a ton of fun. Sorry, I had fresh strawberries and I really wanted to get through them today. This was a ton of fun. Was really excited to do this stream. I hope you all learned something. Thank you to all of the new people who came by. Thank you to everyone thank you for all the bits tonight. I got a lot of cheers tonight. I don't usually get that. It means a whole lot. We stream here every Wednesday. Um, yeah. Oh, if you're not, well, so let me do my plugs. So there's the GitHub repo. If you're not subscribed on YouTube, go subscribe on YouTube. Right now we are doing a subscriber challenge where once I get to 600 subscribers, I'll be doing an MVI case study video where I take a look at a feature and I build it both with MVVM and MVI and really dissect why you would want to pick MVI over MVVM depending on what that feature is doing. The sample repo for this video is actually done, so I'll be recording it soon. But I can't release it until we hit 600 subs, so tell your friends. I'll be really excited to share that content soon. Hot tub stream would be a great idea. If I wasn't afraid of torching the laptop, um, maybe we do a hot tub stream. But awesome. Let's see, before we sign off, if there's anyone here that I could raid. I think Lando will be on by now. Um, and Lando is one of my favorite streamers, someone I'm happy to go raid. Uh, so let's see if they're on. Yep, Lando is on. So some of you may have seen Lando before. He's a Rocket League streamer. Rocket League is one of my favorite esports. Um, so after a stream, sometimes I like to go raid Lando. If you don't know what that is, real quick, basically it's going to take everyone who's watching this, and it's going to take you over to his stream. Bump up his viewer count, give him some more exposure. So I'm sure y'all are tired and want to sign off for the night, so I don't judge you, but if you could hold on and go with me to the raid, that would mean a lot. Always happy to surprise him and give him some support. But yeah, thank you all for coming by. Keep an eye out for this on YouTube in the coming days, and we'll see you all next Wednesday. Have a good night, everyone. Oh, and I said that too early because now I have an awkward 10 seconds before the raid actually starts. So, uh, this is like when you say goodbye to someone, but then you end up walking down the same path in the street. All right, now we're ready.
Something insane right now, by the way. I know it doesn't look like it. You've been fooled. How did your stream go, Adam? I'm hacking the mainframe. Hold up. Shit. That's Adam. Subtract. How you doing, man? Nova.